Welcome to the Dirty Side of Leadership podcast with Ron and Kristin, where leadership meets entertainment. This podcast features stories with names and certain aspects that have been changed to keep submissions private. Enjoy the show.
Welcome back to the Dirty Side of Leadership podcast, where leadership meets entertainment. I'm Kristin, and I'm joined by my amazing co-host, Ron Ward, best-selling author of the Dirty Side of Leadership book. Ron, how's it going?
I think you could be my hype person, Kristin, before I go out. I'm doing great. I'm always excited to do this podcast. We love it. And boy, did we have some funny conversations before we started recording.
Oh my gosh, I know. We're like half hour worth of conversation. Like, we should probably put some of this in the recording. So we'll make sure to revisit today. Are you excited about today's topic? I know you love getting into the psychology of things, as do I.
I'm excited and very nervous about today's topic.
Okay. Tell me more. Why are we nervous?
We are going to be looking at why weak men don't impress women.
Yeah. We don't have anything to worry about because I've been around you. You're not weak. You have an alpha energy. We will share a story that reiterates that sometime in the next half hour here. I'm excited to get into the raw truth of what happens when men stop leading and why women stop wanting them, quite frankly.
Yeah. And we all have stories of, the nice guy. And you hear women go, oh my God, he's so good to her. How could she possibly, not just fawn over him? And how could she let him go and all of that? And there is psychology to that. Whether it's fortunate or unfortunate, it's true. And when they say good guys finish last, sometimes it's very true.
I know. And it's like, I think we need to reexamine the good guy piece of it. Is a good guy someone that just lays back and is told what to do and does whatever he's told, right? Like, it's just, we need to really rethink that. So, and those are the guys that often get friend zoned too.
It is. Oh yeah. And it's so good that you brought up what our culture today considers a good guy. I really believe if you went back 30 years, they would call that a weak beta guy.
Yeah.
So,
absolutely.
And don't get me wrong, you can be beta in your physique and the way you process, but you can still be masculine in a way that attracts women. I knew a guy who, if you looked at him, you would say he could never get a date, and women loved him because it was his mannerisms and he had that masculine energy.
Yeah. I mean, look at Bill Murray. I use him as an example often, but because I don't find him attractive in the slightest, but he has that confidence and that masculine energy, and women love him. So we're going there today. Why women, yes, even the strong, independent ones, crave male leadership, and why being with a passive man makes us women hardened and resentful, and really why a man in uniform. That's a piece we're going to bring up also. I like to call the ones that go off after the officers, they're badge bunnies. Just you probably already knew that, Ron. And even, I know about buckle bunnies for rodeo, the girls that like the rodeo guys, but there are badge bunnies out there too.
Kristin, I did wear the uniform for a while, and there's no doubt about it. Number one, it attracts anyone. I remember, when I would go in restaurants, somebody has to talk to you. They cannot leave you alone. They're going to say something good, bad, or indifferent. But it absolutely, there's no question, women were attracted to that uniform. But a quick fun fact. So at the school, I won't mention where my kids went, my daughter is inside, and there is a football game, like a Pee Wee League football game going on. And some people began to whisper that Bill Murray was there, and he lives in Charleston. So my daughter is standing.
Know that.
Yeah,
okay.
My daughter is standing inside the reception. Bill Murray walks in, literally pats her on the head, and goes past her and goes to the restroom. By the way, that's why he was walking in, and he was there watching his grandson play football. So anyway, Jansen has no idea who he is, and they go, Bill Murray patted you on the head, and she's like, who? And so then we had this lady, God rest her soul, her name was Norma. and she was really funny. So she
Aw.
goes, Bill Murray, come and talk to me. He's walking out of the restroom, and they go, Norma, leave him alone. He's here to watch a football game. And he goes, yeah, Norma, leave him alone. He called her
Oh my
Norma.
God.
And he walked on
That's
out.
hilarious. I love it. A little Murray story.
No autographs, no nothing, but he patted Jansen on the head.
Hey, I think that's memorable.
Yeah,
That's for sure.
So leadership isn't gendered. So we're not saying that. So please, when I told you I was nervous, it wasn't about my energy. It was about, women wanting to kill me over this episode. But we are looking at science, people. So if you are a feminist, you might get a little offended, and you probably need to be. But anyway, feminine leadership is a real thing, but there is no question that you have masculine energy and you have feminine energy. And if you don't understand those, you can't base it on the culture or the times at hand. You got to understand your deep energy, because what happens is, if you don't understand your masculine energy, if you don't understand your feminine energy, you're going to end up being extremely unhappy. And if you ever wonder why you see social media, especially I see a lot of women who are just so angry, this visceral hatred for what's going on. And there is a part of me, I know, Kristin, that, most people like to go, oh, look at those idiots and all that, those Karens. But there is a part of me thinking one day they're going to look back and go, my God, the world didn't end. And I spent my 20s, my late teens, 20s, 30s, whatever they are, being miserable for no reason, no real reason. And it's kind of sad. Anyway,
it is. I know. And hopefully they do some self-reflection. I think that's huge. But and it makes me wonder, when I was doing research for this, when you see, we all know a couple where the woman, quote unquote, wears the pants, or at least appears to. And generally I'm finding, because I was doing a lot of reflecting, I'm like, the one who wears the pants generally is not a soft, warm and fuzzy, nurturing type. And so I started wondering, is that because they've been forced in the relationship to be the decisive male figure because their male husband or partner is not doing that? So we'll dive into that. But let's start here. The lie of our generation is that women don't need men. But what women actually don't need is men who won't lead. We are wired by design to thrive under strength, direction, and presence. And that does not make us weak. It makes us aligned with how we were created.
No, it's very true. And leadership isn't gendered, but polarity is real. In every strong relationship, there's masculine and feminine energy, as I said. And when women are forced to lead at home, at work, in parenting, in planning, in protecting, eventually they just get exhausted, and sometimes they snap. It's too much. Right.
There's literally that whole show, the whole series called Snapped. And of course, that's extreme. But yes, that is a real thing. I mean, I've lived it. I briefly dated passive men and realized that wasn't for me. I steamrolled them because my personality is strong. And, on one hand, you're like, he's so nice and easygoing. And you reflect on that and say, I ended up friend zoning them really quickly. And I felt like I was babysitting in a sense. And so it wasn't being mean. I just was reacting to a lack of direction, and it made me cold, sharp, and, just a little, not bitter, but turned off, I guess you would say.
Yes. And, when you take this on, Kristin, there's always strong feelings, and, they're going to say we're outdated or we're using stereotypes from the 1960s, and we're not. But here's the truth. Yeah. There's probably women, as we go through this in their car, in private, screaming, yes, right, you nailed it. And that's the interesting part of these discussions. When I've had heart-to-hearts I've talked to women and men about this, and you can set aside your emotions and listen to the practicality, the science, and reality. It's very refreshing. And people actually agree a lot more than you would think.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Let's take it a little deeper here. So it's not just evolutionary biology. It's divine design. And when you think about it, women were created with nurturing, relational, responsive wiring. And that's not random, it's intentional. God designed women to flourish when covered and led well.
No, that's exactly right. It's so important that, you know, when you look, if you can set aside all the cultural implications, everything else, and you just look at men and women, there's differences, and it's okay. And it was designed to be this wonderful, extraordinary thing that we
Mm-hmm.
have watered down and minimized through the years through what we call evolution of culture. But, you know, we could argue that we have devolved instead of evolved.
Mm.
And I don't know. Tell us a little more about the biology of it, Kristen.
Yeah. I mean, what most people miss is that when order is flipped, the man won't lead and the woman is forced to, like I mentioned earlier. And she's not built to stay in that energy long term. So a female's nervous system goes into overdrive. And I felt this in the workplace before. Her body starts carrying stress in places that it was never meant to. And yes, her attraction will shut down.
There's actual science behind this. This stress induces cortisol and estrogen crashes. It's not just emotional, it's neurological. But more
Mhm.
importantly, it's spiritual because what's really happening is a disruption of God's rhythm for intimacy, peace, and polarity.
Yeah. And when a man steps up with godly leadership, not pride, not control, but strength and humility, a woman feels safe enough to stop performing and start trusting. And let me tell you, when trust is there, attraction flows naturally.
That's a fact. All right, let's look at that passive guy trap. And I definitely talk to guys who fall in this trap.
Mm.
So let's look at what happens when that masculine leadership is missing. The nice guy shows up, he listens, he's polite, he's agreeable, but he never leads. And at first, she thinks, there's no drama. He's a nice guy. He's probably got a
Mm-hmm.
good job. You know, I like him.
Yeah.
And probably had a bad experience with the bad boy, right? We're not, when we're talking about good
Yeah.
masculine leadership, we're not talking about the bad boy
No.
who can't hold a job down.
Right.
But go into that same situation. 6 months in, she's drained, annoyed, secretly fantasizing about a man who takes initiative. Maybe a little bad boy, but takes initiative.
A little underlying.
What do you think about that
Yeah.
scenario?
Well, yeah, it's not about being alpha or macho. It's about clarity. And it's kind of like the guy where you go, talking to about your reference above. It's like, where do you want to go to? I don't care. Like that. Women really don't want that. That might be easy, but that's not what we want. A woman will always feel safest with a man who knows who he is, knows where he's going, and how to carry her heart with him.
Yeah. And Kristen, as you know, not to get too personal, I was, kind of ended up in the dating world and did never expect to be there. So it was like I
Right.
landed on Mars. And one of the first things, I felt like I had the masculine energy, but one of the first things I began to realize when I actually started dating someone, seriously dating,
Mm-hmm.
is I would rather her decide on a restaurant because frankly, I didn't care. I can eat anything. But I
Yeah.
began to realize quickly that was not working. She wanted me to
Right.
plan the date. And I don't know, maybe you can help clarify that for the guys that are listening to this episode, but women, it was a huge turn on if I planned a cool romantic date, or at least I weighed in on a restaurant. Even if
Right.
she said, no, I'd rather go here, that's fine. But she seemed to want me to plan it out and have a restaurant in mind. And
Right.
I thought I was being cooperative by saying, well, you pick. Well, I
Yeah.
soon realized that was not going that well. Is that
Right.
isolated or is that kind of a
No, that's
universal
very
truth?
typical. I mean, I don't need my husband, or even when I was dating, I didn't need them to plan every single meal. I think that's, a tall order. But to show it, basically it's showing that there's been energy put forth. If you're just
Yes.
always like, yeah, whatever you want, you pick. We do get exhausted having to make all of the decisions. So it's funny, especially when I was in corporate, it was like constantly, when you're making all of the decisions for your team and you're leading. I didn't want to lead when I came home, right? And so I think about that with it would be nice, yeah, for women want a man at least once in a while to say, I have booked this restaurant 7 o'clock. I have a babysitter lined up, or if just to
Yes.
take that initiative. And I think it really goes into they're in control, which feels really safe for women. And then also it shows that they've put thought and energy into it. It's not a no-brainer, right?
Yeah. And Kristen, I wish people, I never reveal specific details about coaching someone, but I wish people, as you know, I've coached a ton of people now. And in that private moment, when both men and women did not have a dad or they had an abusive father, it always impacts them in a negative way. Now, do they get tougher and do they learn, to move around and operate? Yes, they do. But there is a hurt and a scar there. And it almost always shows itself in ways that is counterproductive for their adult life. And I always hear, and I do commend, I know there's so many women that, they are raising children without a man in the house, and some of them do a really good job. But when I hear people saying we don't need a man in the house, I get to see up close, intimate, and personal the results of that. People who say that are ignorant, and they've never really looked at everything from science to psychology to mental health to all the other things that occur. But it's very real, and you can decide whether to believe me or not if you're listening, but it is very real. And there is a specific role that each parent plays. Now, they're not all the same. Don't get me wrong. There's times the script's flipped and it works. But in most cases, what I'm telling you is absolute truth. There are scars and wounds from not having that masculine energy. Now, I do know if someone loses a mother or mother's not involved, that creates situations as well. Mothers are extremely important. I'm just saying in my coaching, most of the time, it's the dad who skipped out on the family.
Right. Absolutely. I mean, I can even see it in my household because my husband works 6 days a week. And I do start to see, I'm like, you need to take another day off because I'm starting to see the kids, especially my son, he needs that masculine energy around him. So I absolutely agree with you 100%. It's not even agreeing with you. It's agreeing with what data and science shows us. This is how resentment grows in marriages also, not from abuse, but from passivity. And if you're listening and your wife has changed, you want to ask yourself, have you stopped leading?
Exactly. So let's switch into something I find very intriguing. It's the uniform effect. Now we are going to talk about
home here.
we're going to talk about the feminine aspect of that, but also I can tell you, as I feel like I'm an alpha male. I've always been told that, but when I see military, I mentioned to you once when I was the chair of the Federal Law Enforcement Training Accreditation Board, we had the Army CID coming up for accreditation. And they brought the brass. They brought the real brass. So I had never been with generals. I had a friend who was a colonel, but when you grow up with someone, it's different. Yeah. So I'm standing there, and of course they're going to bring them to meet me, and it's a little social. And I have to admit, when they came walking up, there's like 5 military men and a couple of like generals and medals everywhere. I said to myself, should I salute? I didn't know what the heck to do because it was powerful. But I just, I reached. Of course, I played it cool, Kristin.
Right.
But inside, I was a little intimidated, and I thought, thank God they made it, because I would hate to deliver the message to the generals. But uniform, I was really surprised that it was a little intimidating, even for me.
Right. So you didn't get their autograph, Ron?
No, I tried to play it cool.
Played it cool.
I wasn't a fanboy, but but it was impressive. No, I'll tell you that. It was impressive.
Yes, I absolutely know what you're talking about. And the uniform screams, basically, I've got it covered, and it's visual shorthand for authority, courage, order, discipline, which are all of these spiritual traits of a godly man, right? Like I'm going back to that because you and I are both of Christian faith. And I do feel like people would learn a lot if they'd crack the Bible every once in a while.
You're right.
But even in the Bible, warriors wore armor, symbols of purpose, not just power. And I think most people listening know, maybe not, but I met my husband when he was NYPD. He was on duty. I was in vacation in New York City. And there was something about, I don't think I would have done a long distance relationship if I didn't feel that he was responsible and an upstanding citizen, right? Like that, the uniform and the fact that he went through the background checks and, just all of that, it does do something for you. And it's, attractive at the same time.
Let me interpret that. She wasn't worried about upstanding citizens. She saw that uniform and Kristin got googly eyed.
Oh my gosh.
Happened.
No,
she's
I don't
like, that's a real man right there.
I don't like losers. I want someone that Yeah. I almost said pays taxes, but then I'm like, no, I actually don't think. I think taxation is theft. So, anyways, but someone that's not, loser on paper. We don't.
Let's break it down. Images. Most young kids they want to be a firefighter. I don't know how many kids they love that red truck. You see these cool. I'm to talk about that calendar you have, Kristin. I'm talking about. Cool fire.
Oh my gosh! I'm like, what?
Firefighters who run into danger, like it's very masculine. And I'm not saying there's not great women firefighters, but let's be honest, the image you conjure is that strong man running into a building. Then you got police officers who protect an order, and again, that's been attacked. But the reality is, every single time, and I talk to cops still. I'm in that world. When people get in trouble, they want a police officer to come. And I just observed just recently, I was in a restaurant and a couple of cops came in and eyes are glued to them. And when one of them got up to do something, there was a little kid who waved and the parent said, he wants to say hi to you. And he's like, hey, buddy, rub the top of his head. So it's still the same. Now I wondered, after all these years, if that's changed, but that uniform draws like a magnet. Yeah. And then you got soldiers, like I mentioned, those generals, but just soldiers. When you are in a hotel, I travel a lot, and a lot of times there's soldiers in the hotel. The thickness of that, even if they're in fatigues, it's just very cool. And then you got your pilots. Don't tell me you don't notice pilots when they're walking down the airport. Yeah. They're everybody knows it's cool. So there's something about it. I'm going to go buy a uniform. What should I buy, Kristin?
Oh my gosh. Yeah, the pilot. You know what's funny? The firefighter, though, I think they get hit on the most. What do you think? I should have pulled a poll on that and see.
Yeah, I don't know the answer to that, but downtown Charleston, I just thought it was funny, and I wondered what the chief thought. There's a fire department that's downtown, and I've come through there 2 or 3 times, and here's the firefighters out front, young guys. Most of them look pretty darn muscular, and there's always women stopping to say, hey, and you could tell they were enjoying themselves. They were appreciating the fruits of their labor.
Oh, yeah. That's FDNY like that for sure. They just stand outside their houses and absolutely. And in New York, you can, if you're a firefighter, you can go to a bar in uniform after you're off, and the police officers cannot. So literally, can you imagine? So these firefighters can wear their uniform to the bars. They just get hit on this. They just flock to them. It's crazy. So the officers were always ticked, the police officers, like, you guys, you got to wear your uniform, go get all the checks.
I'm sure your husband, Dave, has experienced this, but occasionally you get a call to a bar, and there is nothing like walking into a bar in uniform when you have to deal with an issue. All eyes are definitely on you, that's for sure.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And it's not about, I would say it's not about dominance. Looking back at the uniforms, I think each of the uniforms that we just covered say, you're safe with me. Even the pilot, right? Like, gosh, I hope so. and so in that safety, that is the key to unlocking a woman's heart and body, men.
All right, guys, if you don't wear a uniform, we've got hope for you. It doesn't take a uniform. It helps.
No,
don't get me wrong. It helps. Yeah. But you don't need the uniform to embody that masculine energy. You need direction. you need conviction, you need presence. And you want to learn to lead well. Carry yourself like you've got a mission. Kristin, I'm going to give a free coaching tip here.
All right.
I tell people when you enter a room, you enter with purpose. Have you ever seen someone, let's say that you're in a larger amphitheater. We'll use that for example, but this could be a conference room. But I see people walking in, you can totally tell they're intimidated. There's no distance between their earlobe, their shoulder, they hunch their shoulder, and they're bobbing their head like a chicken. They're looking around like, oh God, where do I sit? Should I be here? I tell people, you enter that room. Dr. Marissa calls it the skin of your teeth, hanging.
Oh,
she said that's a reminder to keep your head up. But you walk in a room. I actually had one person I was coaching watch Denzel Washington. Watch Brad Pitt. You watch these superstars, Tom Cruise, they never are bobbing their head. They look directly. So I tell people, enter the room with purpose, make eye contact, look around, do not bob, don't look like a chicken, walk till you find your seat and you sit down. You be cool, calm, and collected. And let me tell you something, that energy draws people. And there is a study, Kristin, that showed the most beautiful women were getting hit on the least in clubs or in bars. And it's because of the negative body language. They usually turn their back. They don't make eye contact. Whereas if a woman, and this goes for men too, but if they're open, a lot of times they're going to give open cues. Hands maybe up. They might rub their hair. I hate to say this, Kristin, but when I've gone on a date and a woman starts rubbing her hair, I already know we're hitting it off here. I know.
Yeah. Hey, it's smart.
There's open and closed body language. There's these little flirty looks where they look at you, and a little bit of a smile will touch the edge of the face. These are all cues to show you that they're interested. And unfortunately, the nice guy usually sends off those beta cues, but also don't even pick up on the messages that the woman is sending. Like, maybe I need to change gears. Maybe this isn't a good conversation. And I was coaching someone that said, I went on what I thought was a great date, and then the person ghosted me. So we broke down the date. I'm not going to go into details, but it was amazing to me that this person, the cues were misread. And don't get me wrong, there's always fake cues as well. Like, I'm going to be nice until I can get to the exit. But anyway, that's a little bit of coaching tips right there.
I like that. I think that's great. And you posted recently about being mysterious. When I think back on like the nice guys that would hit on me, or even ones I know now that I know that they're single and looking to meet somebody, they give it away too fast. And it really makes me think of your mysterious post. And you've talked about this before. You have to go ahead and explain it. Actually, you're the one who.
Well, it's mystique, and you're right. It is mysterious.
Mystique.
That's
yes,
okay.
Yes.
One of the biggest takeaways in my trainings, I tell people, like, what was the word of the day? I always have takeaways, and they'll always say mystique. It's just kind of funny thing I have with people I train. But truthfully, when people lose their mystique, there's something about your supervisor, your leader, that if they have a mystique about them, you're drawn, you're interested. What are they going to say next? How would they handle this? And I just say that there's several ways to ruin your mystique. If you overshare, you tell every single personal detail. And when I hear all of these gurus talking about empathy, they do it to the point that I think people try to be too empathetic, and then they overshare or they come across as weak. You need to maintain a little bit of a boundary. Of course, your actions, your body language, the way you talk, these are all things that help you maintain your mystique. And the one thing that will definitely ruin mystique is if you start criticizing others, even criticizing other managers. You are making yourself look weak, and you don't even know it. In the moment, it feels good, and you will have your brown nosers going, yeah, you're the best. You're the best. You lose your mystique. So take that word with you, folks, if you're listening. And I tell people sometimes it takes a year to rebrand, to get your mystique back.
Because that mystique, it doesn't only play out in the workplace, it plays out in your personal life also. So thinking about what men could do differently, like I said, don't give it all away. You almost want to leave, in my opinion, you correct me if I'm wrong, Ron, on your thoughts, but you almost want to leave whoever you're interested in wondering if you're in or not. Like, I think that going, right? What do you
That's
think?
exactly right. I told
Okay.
someone this. I said, I hate this. It shouldn't be this way, but there is
I
a little bit of a
know.
game of cat and
There
mouse that you're
is.
playing. And if
Yeah.
you show your emotions too early, it's just a turn off to men and
Yeah.
women.
It makes
Sometimes,
you
you
look
know,
desperate.
I went on a date and someone was telling me, I want you to meet my kid. And that freaked me out. And
Yikes.
so, yes, you got to hold your cards a little. It's just the reality of life and relationships. I'm talking like I'm an
Right.
expert, Kristen, and I'm sitting here single. So keep that in
Oh,
mind, folks,
yeah.
as you listen. No,
Well,
I
you
have
do
tried
your
to be.
research.
I do my research. I have tried to
Yeah.
be very observant, and there is science that is attached to that
Right.
because when people want what they can't have, or at least what
Yeah.
they think they might not be able to get, so
Right.
therefore
Right.
there's this great surprise when there's a mutual interest that arises.
Yeah.
So
Right.
you have to show that I just, you're just not going to reel me in on the instant. I've got barrier standards and you got to meet those
Mm-hmm.
standards, and that is a turn on when you do that.
Yeah. Yes, it is. Let's talk about some practical steps before we close it up here. You want to be the man she respects. That's a huge thing. So
Exactly.
start leading like the one God designed you to be.
That's
Make
right.
decisions, set boundaries, speak life and truth. Take ownership of your household, your habits, and your future.
And I will tell you, Kristen, and we're open about our Christianity. I had someone talk to me about that. You and I'll talk offline, that we were
Mm-hmm.
bringing our faith into this podcast. Well, we
Mm-hmm.
said we're different, and we are. So
Right.
men should take the initiative and pray with their family. And
Yeah.
as they say, it's a cliche, but a family that prays together stays together. But men need to take that initiative.
Right.
God is first in his household, and that is masculine, by the way. Don't think of some, flower child jumping around singing songs. We're talking about real. And if you study the Bible,
Yeah.
David, the guy who could worship and play instruments, he was artistic, but he was a warrior, could also take down Goliath. And I think he's the
Mm-hmm.
best representation. And he also had significant flaws and he failed, but he
Mm-hmm.
is the epitome of what a male should be. He was tender. He was a lover. He was all those things, but yet
Right.
he was also a warrior. And
Right.
wow, what an example.
I know. And, when a man leads with strength, a woman can exhale. And that exhale is a woman stepping into her feminine rhythm. And that's her soul finally saying, I'm safe. And I know I've personally experienced that. Yes, it's a great
All
feeling.
right. So let's wind it down, Kristen.
Yeah.
Leadership starts with, I would say, knowing who you are. You have to know who you are. You have to
Mm-hmm.
know your values, and you have to
Right.
decide, I'm not going to cross those. Then you got to be consistent with those values. And it doesn't mean that you're perfect. None of us are. But God doesn't call you to be perfect. He calls you to be present. And you have to step into that discomfort. The other thing that I see is once people are in a relationship, and especially married, they get two different sets of hobbies. And then the guy's gone playing golf all weekend or whatever. If you've got
Yeah.
children, especially, joint hobbies are great. But if you've got children, you got to be there for them. One of the greatest ways to
Right.
lead is you set an example for your children. And by the way, that's sexy to women. Women, when you're a great
Yeah.
mother, that is sexy to men. And
Right.
I remember one time, Kristen, this was back again when I had separated and I wasn't doing well. I'm healthier now. But one night I was at this bar and it's like 1 a.m. and I'm out way later than I usually am. And I'm talking to this woman and she starts going on and on about her kid and loves her kid and all this stuff. I said, who's got your kid? She said, she stayed over at my friend's house. I said, so let me get this straight. And this is the part of me I'm such a dad. I go, so you're crazy about your kid. You're at a bar at 1 a.m. and you got somebody at a different house keeping your kid. I said, if I were you, I'd head
Yeah.
home and get my kid. And that didn't go well, by the way.
Yeah, I can imagine.
She
But good for
didn't.
you.
She didn't really like me that much. But oh my God, I'm like, give me a break. You're this mother of the year.
Yeah.
Now, by the way,
That's not
just so I don't sound
attractive.
hypocritical, my kids were grown. I didn't left the little kid at home. but
Yeah.
I never
Yeah,
did.
no,
did
I'm
that.
glad.
So
I think more people need to be honest like that. And I think that's something, I commend you for it because it's not easy to be a truth teller. And, for the women out there, if you're tired, you're sharp, right? Sharp and like you just feel snappy.
Yeah.
Or emotionally closed off, you want to ask yourself, are you trying to carry something that was never meant for you to carry alone?
I think that's that's a great example. And guys, when you allow women to feel safe and soften, and Kristin, I don't want to, or they soften, but I don't want to go on a tangent. But I've
Yeah.
been watching the P. Diddy trial. Hulu's
Oh,
doing
yeah.
exact quotes. They're reenacting this trial. If you get a chance, you should check it
Right.
out. But when I see
saw
his,
something about a Tootsie Roll.
yeah,
Did you hear
when,
that?
oh my God, that's what Kristin took away from
later.
that. No, they have someone who is playing the part of Cassie, and when I see, people don't understand domestic violence, so you've got guys going, well, she'd had freak offs, she did. Listen, this woman was in a cage. She was trapped. And if you know anything about domestic violence, you know that. But the point is, she was not safe. And how dare men put women in a situation where they're not safe? And vice versa, by the way. Women can be vicious. And I've seen situations where they lie to get control of the children. All that. It can go both ways. Shame on people who do that. Act right. Even if you separate, do it amicably and don't criticize the other person. There's so many tangents we could go on here.
Yeah.
But women should feel safe and protected by their man. I'm going to write a country song right now, putting the words down.
Do it. You have your pen and paper there.
All right.
This is the dirty side of leadership. And sometimes leadership starts with a whisper from maybe God or maybe the Dirty Side of Leadership podcast host. But the whisper is, I've created more for you, right? I've created you for more. You deserve more. So I think that's important. And we're not saying here, go and blow up your marriage. We're saying you need to have communication about it. Make some small changes.
That's right.
Make some small changes and see how they go over.
Yeah, that's right. And to the men out there, don't be discouraged. Be awakened. If there's some characteristics that you got from this podcast, start to work on that. Rebrand. It's so interesting, Kristin. You have no idea. I even did I sent out on social media, what should my catchphrase be, to get feedback. And when I came to be the leader you're meant to be, that is talking about God's design. That's why I called it that. Now I wanted it to be short because I did get some good feedback, but I wanted it to be short. But it's way deeper than people realize when I say be the leader you're meant to be. Don't leave this earth not having been the leader God had called you to be. Be strong and courageous, but also have that, that passion and that compassion.
Yeah.
And you'll go a long ways.
Yeah, that's huge. I love that, Ron. I never knew the what was behind that actually. Outside
I don't think we ever talked about that.
The words actually mean. Yeah. Well, that's fantastic. Well, I hope you liked this episode. Hopefully it resonated with some folks. And I mean, gosh, it's a topic that I think could touch almost everyone listening.
All right, everybody, from the depths of my heart, be the leader you're meant to be.
We'll see you next week.
The Dirty Side of Leadership podcast is brought to you by Forward Operations. If you'd like to book Ron or Kristin for speaking events, training, or executive coaching, visit forwardoperations.com. Be the leader you're meant to be.